This interview with Don Mancuso began in 2009 as a pilot project. It didn't pan out, but the interview, although dated, is valuable in learning about this artist. We therefore offer it here in its entirety. We anticipate a current follow-up in a new format in the near future.
Hello, I am Dr. Jake.
And I am Crystal.
This is Fans and Friends, Independent Entertainment News.
Today we have Don Mancuso. Don is a rocker with a golden touch. At age 18, Don was playing professionally with the blues rock band Black Sheep, featuring Lou Gramm, who eventually became the voice for the supergroup Foreigner. Black Sheep toured nationally, opening for Ted Nugent, Hall & Oates, Peter Frampton, Kiss and others. After the disbanding of Black Sheep, Don explored rock fusion with a band called Aurora. Later, he moved on to another group that took the Northeast by storm, called Cheater. His long, successful trip has included many recording projects. Presently he has completed 2 CD efforts, D-Drive, and Straight Up the Middle, and is working on a third. He also continues to tour with the Lou Gramm Band. His versatility, professionalism and incredible artistry have made him one of the most respected and admired guitarists among his peers and on the international scene. So Don, what is your first recollection of wanting to be a rocker?
I think seeing Jimi Hendrix live for the first time, warming up for the Monkees. I saw them in Rochester, New York, and it was an experience, literally. It was great. The guy was just amazing. It's the first time I ever really thought about becoming a guitarist or getting into rock. Seeing someone express themselves in that type of way was just like unbelievable to me. I loved it. It was a great feeling, and I went home feeling like I should really work at playing guitar and make something of it at that point.
When did you first start playing?
I think I pretty much learned how to play guitar when I was about 6, 7 years old. I learned how to read. I had an old Italian instructor who used to teach me technique, chords, all the usual stuff, and I got right into it. I was learning things like Little Brown Jug and all the tunes that my parents wanted me to learn that I could play for the family at home, the Tarantella and all that good stuff. Heavy rock. Eventually it worked into heavy rock, but I actually played for a while. I knew how to play, and then I got into sports, and I pretty much gave it up at that point. And pretty much hung out with my friends and enjoyed school, sports, the usual things growing up until I got into my teens again, and then that was when I saw Hendrix, and I decided I wanted to get back into it and started playing again by ear this time.
Hi, Don. It's Dr. Jake. Do you have any formal music education?
I've got formal music training in the form of a couple years of college. I attended the College of Marin in California for about 1.5 to 2 years. I never got my music degree in it, but I got a lot of good formal training. I also attended Hochstein School of Music in Rochester, New York, where I had taken lessons for classical guitar for a year and also voice for another year, which was a big help for me because I had such a weak voice I couldn't even contribute to background vocals at that point. I didn't know how to project, and my teacher there kind of taught me how to do that. Not that I have a great voice now, obviously, but I have a lot more to work with, and I can contribute vocally to a band, and it seems to work out pretty well. Outside of that, a lot of stage experience, a lot of studio time. I also do all my own engineering and technical work, which is a big help because I'm not held hostage by studios where I need to be creative in that window. So I can kind of walk into my studio when I feel the urge and do what comes naturally, and there's a lot more feeling and energy to it, I think.
That's cool. By the way, do you read music?
Yes, I do read music, but not very well. I'm not like your typical session player that can walk in, someone hands me a chart, and I can basically read it verbatim and put all the feel that's needed and the technique into it that I need to. I'm more of a hands-on person, or ears-on, I should say. I can pick up things a lot quicker by ear than I can from music. Music is great, though. I do look at it, and it does assist me at certain things. It gives me a good starting point, and from there I kind of do my own thing with it.
Since you don't read, how do you learn a new song?
I basically learn 99% of all the music that I do learn by ear. I have a really well-trained ear from being in so many different bands over the years and having to learn things on the fly so quickly. That's basically how I teach guitar too, is that I have my students bring ideas in that they would like to learn, and I learn it while we're sitting there and teach them. And they really enjoy that.
Would you have any advice for someone that is just starting out?
Okay, my advice to anybody just starting out at playing guitar or getting into music in general would probably be to get as much practical experience as you can. Learn how to read. Kind of figure out what kind of music feels good to you and that you enjoy doing, and start there. That's usually a good spot. If I had it to do over again, I would probably go back to school and finish my music degree, which I had a couple years into, and I would go into teaching. I teach guitar now, but I don't have a degree in teaching music. I'd probably get some kind of honorary type of thing, but as far as a teaching degree, I don't have that. I would have liked to have had that. That would have been nice. And I'd just say stick with it, follow your dreams, and go wherever it takes you. You know, usually you have to use your own judgment and see what feels right to you. If it isn't right, you don't go that way. You pick another direction and go.
Let's hear some samples of Don's D Drive 2004 debut CD. The first is from track 1, A Little Outside. Next, check this out. From track 8, it's Funny Pages.
Front page news, color pictures, black and white reviews, stories that the sources say behind the scoop of the day. Dump sites making neighborhoods dry, start to rally, drive like flies. Hometown boy makes it good, his victims found in the hood. Life draws an ugly picture, molding and hardening in me. So I flip to the funny pages, 'cause it helps me sleep. Yeah. Oh, it helps me dream. Well, they come up today. Gas and taxes up and away. Living expenses rise so high, it gets tougher to survive. We don't now, war in the east. Around the corner, war police. Forecast doesn't look so bright. Fire alarm wakes you up at night. Life draws an ugly picture, molding and hardening in me. So I flip to the funny pages, 'cause it helps me sleep. It helps me sleep.
That's very cool. Okay, let's get back to it. Don, who's your biggest influences?
I've had a lot of different ones. I think my first ones were from a band called Emerson, Lake and Palmer, which really didn't have anything to do with guitar, but it had a really cool classical rock type of thing happening that I really latched onto. From there, I got into pretty much everything. I think my main influences were Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, Paul Kossoff, who used to be with a band called Free, I'm sure you're familiar with. Also, bands like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, I mean, numerous groups over the years that bands like Yes. I've been into the whole gamut, and I was kind of a music addict, so I pretty much took it all in and kind of learned a little bit from everything and figured out what I could do with what I had that would be, true to your own school, but as good as your influences and the people that you really worship. But other than that, there's been a lot of new things that I listen to too. Anything from Incubus to As I Lay Dying. I find things in there that are inspirational to me that I don't really do, but I can get something out of. And if there's some emotion to it and something that I can feel, I'm usually affected by it. It's all a building process, really. I've just tried to develop my own style. You can basically go on the internet and find a 3-year-old that can play faster and cleaner than I can, but he'd never be able to do what I do in the way that I do it. I've tried to develop a specific style that people can kind of recognize when they hear it. I can usually be identified by that style.
Don, do you play any other instruments other than the guitar that works well with that style?
I do play another instrument. I play a little bit of bass. I actually used to play for myself to pilot things in the studio, and when Lou had asked me to join the Lou Gramm Band, he also requested that I might play a little bit of bass due to the fact that his younger brother Richard, who was the original guitar player in the first version of Black Sheep before I got in it, was going to be playing bass in the Lou Gramm Band, and he wanted to do some songs on guitar, just change it up a little bit. So when he asked me, do you want to play some bass? I said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'll practice. I got some lessons. I honed my skills enough so that I could get through the Foreigner stuff and his solo stuff that we were doing. And actually, over the 6-year period I've been doing it, I've gotten pretty good. Now I'm able to actually record some decent bass tracks in my studio for the D-Drive stuff. I've appeared on probably half a dozen cuts on there, which I don't really flaunt. It's just a matter of if they're good. I play with a lot of people that are a lot more talented than I am on bass, so I'd rather have them most of the time, but sometimes I just know what fits and I can work it in a little easier and get it done quicker.
In your long career, how many groups have you played in?
I've been in a lot of different bands. I basically started out in blues and eventually moved into rock, doing cover stuff. At the age of 18, I was basically plucked out of a little blues boogie band that I was in and taken on by a band called Black Sheep, who was looking for a guitarist. That band shortly thereafter got a record deal with Capitol Records. Well, actually the first one was with Chrysalis Records. We were the first American act signed to Chrysalis. And we were pretty much booted off the label as quick as we got on there. We were replaced by a band called UFO with Michael Schenker, who was no slouch. And we moved on to Capitol Records after that. We did 2 albums on Capitol Records. We had a deal to do the third, but we kind of broke up before that and called it quits due to so many truck accidents and losing our equipment so many times. It was getting really frustrating, and of course, like every other band at that point in their career, we were being mismanaged, and we needed a change, so we broke up. As you know, Louis went into a band called Foreigner, and the rest was history. It was actually a great thing for everybody else in the band too, because we were able to flourish at what we wanted to do, because people would look back at Lou's past, and of course they would dig up our names and find out what we were doing and kind of follow us in ways. Other bands, I've been in everything from fusion, prog rock type things to reggae and Grateful Dead type bands. Top 40. Another notable that I did play with for quite a while, it was about 4 or 5 years, was Linda Rutherford and Celtic Fire. It was a Celtic rock band, primarily original. We actually were invited to Woodstock 99 and appeared on the Emerging Artist stage that year, which was in New York State at the Air Force Base here near Rome, New York. And they had basically a hangar where they used to keep the stealth bombers, like in the day. And that's where they had set up the Emerging Artist stage. It was awesome. It was sponsored by PV. They had all their gear there, and it was a really nice gig. It was great. We got to be there for a day or two, and then we had to move on and go do another show. But after that band, I basically moved on to doing my own solo stuff, which was rock-based, but in a lot of different directions. And eventually honed it into what became D-Drive, which Lou Gramm appeared on the first record and the second record. First one he did some lead vocals on, and the second one he did some backing vocals. From that point, he basically needed a band to go out and tour his solo stuff, and he was interested in recording a Christian rock effort, so I took on that challenge, and now we have the Christian rock album, which just came out, called the Lou Gramm Band.
Let's listen to some samples from the Linda Rutherford and Celtic Fire CD, called Flames of Eviction, that Don played on, back in 1999. The first is a track with the same title as the CD, Flames of Eviction.
I can still see the flames of eviction, a ship to take me away. They say it won't be very long, and the fever rages on. A fever rages on. I don't need to read to progress. Where are you going today? You took the very best of me. There's a fever burning, a fever burning on Gordamore, won't forget about before. On Gordamore.
The next sample is titled, I Believe.
Got the look, standing by to catch the crucial shot. Life is filled with evil, contempt in every eye. The shutter speed, the camera flash, it's all another lie. I believe in you. They're coming for you. They'll bring you down.
Finally, we have a track called The Answer.
I got a thing against judgment. I Got a thing against greed, living in each one of us, growing like a weed. Where did all the questions go? What did they choose to leave? Summoned by the universe, brought on by you and me. The life that we're all living, too blindly can be seen. The price of man's indifference to his integrity. The judgment that you make today are lessons to be learned. The measure that you choose to give will someday be returned. And if they're just for the experience, to teach us right from wrong, seek and you will find it. Why do we take so long?
Don, could you tell us about some of your biggest gigs?
I think the biggest gigs that I've ever done are probably with the Lou Gramm Band of late anyways. We did the Aerofest in the Netherlands with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Styx, Meatloaf, Glenn Hughes, a lot of greats. It was wild. I was beside myself. I have never done a concert with that many notables in it, and to be a part of that was really an honor. The other big one was probably the let's see. It was the Jamaican Jazz and Blues Fest, which we were the black sheep of that one. That was kind of a good term for it. I mean, we were played in between Joe Sample and Lionel Richie was, I think, the headliner that night. And to be playing that spot, it was kind of strange because a lot of jazz greats, that were a lot different than what we do. We do more of a rock thing, but people were very appreciative and they loved the show and they gave us our due. It was a good thing. We had a lot of fun and got to enjoy the beach. The beach. It was great.
What is your most memorable performance?
As far as my all-time favorite gig, though, as far as that really gassed me, I mean, it's great doing all these big high-profile gigs. I mean, we toured in Black Sheep with a band you might have heard of called Kiss. We did like the whole Eastern Seaboard with them, and that was during the Kiss Alive tour. It was just as they were coming of age and they were hitting the big time and selling platinum records. So that was kind of a gas. But I think the greatest gig I've ever played from a personal standpoint was my son's 8th grade talent show. I played bass with him singing, one of my students on guitar, and the original drummer Joe Lana from D-Drive. My son had an 8th grade talent show and he was in a bind. All the people in his band had quit and he asked me if I would help him out, and I was ecstatic. And it was great too because we had like 500 screaming kids. It was kind of like being the Beatles for a night. We were the stars. We were the last one. They saved us for last because we were the big attraction, and it was a lot of fun. Playing with my son was a great thing. I've never had a feeling like doing anything else.
Don, when you are on stage, what are you thinking? Does your mind ever wander?
Well, that's a good one. I don't really think my mind wanders very much when I'm on stage playing. I'm usually focused on the music. There's a certain electricity that's in the air when you play live in front of an audience that you have to be able to absorb and work with. It kind of creates the chemistry between the musician and the people, the audience. It's a magical thing that happens when you play live. It's wonderful. That's why I've always loved playing live. I mean, I love recording and I love writing and hiding in a little studio here and there, but inevitably getting out in front of people and seeing their reaction is the gas. That's the coolest part. That's why people like Jeff Beck are still touring in their 60s, the Rolling Stones. I mean, they know that feeling and they love it.
Do you mind if I ask? What was one of your most embarrassing moments on stage?
Okay, let's see now. The funniest moments on stage with Don Mancuso. I think the most embarrassing thing I've ever had happen to me was early on. We were playing with a band called Mountain, featuring Leslie West, and they were headlining a show at the Syracuse War Memorial. And they had a guest with them who you might know, named Mitch Ryder from the Detroit Wheels. He was sitting in with them, and they were doing kind of both their songs, but it was the band Mountain. And Black Sheep was warming up for them. Well, we came out like gangbusters out of the gate, and everything was going great. And the next thing I knew, there were drumsticks all over the stage, and I went running up to the front of the stage to do a solo or something like that, and I ended up skidding on one of the drumsticks, and it was like, you know, the slow motion in the movies. The feet go up in the air, your head comes down, bang, right onto the floor in front of 7,000 people. And then trying to figure out how to keep playing and get up gracefully and look like it was part of the show was the funny part. You know, it was too much. I was embarrassed beyond belief, but it worked out. And it just so happens that when Leslie West went on, people apparently cheered when that happened because they thought it was part of the show or something. And Leslie West came out. He was a rather large guy at the time, and he did the same thing. He went on the floor and was playing on his back to get people going. So I kind of started a trend. It was cool.
Here's a couple of tunes from the D drive straight up the middle CD. Let's rock. The first is called Lick Your Lips.
Riding high when we're together, life with you's a worn-out sweater. I feel so fine. Glassy shine, I see right through you. Purring like a kitten all the time. Mine, mine, mine. When they see the smoke colliding, they won't know we're past them. Right by. Lick your lips and smell the leather. We'll have one time together. You and me in sunny weather now.
Here's the great song, Pray for Tomorrow, that has been made into a fantastic video.
Besides D Drive and LGB, are you collaborating with anyone else?
And Don, what do you see for your future?
Well, as far as the future for Don Mancuso, I see myself continuing on with the Lou Gramm Band and seeing where that'll go. Hopefully we'll get into doing some of the new stuff here eventually. Maybe writing some newer stuff. I'm still into doing the D Drive thing. Phil and I have a really strong bond, and we have a really great band right now. It's been working out great. It's like a family, so I want to stay involved in doing that. Other collaborations would include a good friend of mine, Reggie Hendricks, who is the cousin of Jimi Hendrix. Much younger guy, of course. He didn't really know Jimmy, but it was his cousin on his mom's side. And he's an ultra-talented singer, songwriter, guitar player. Kid plays great. He's got a wonderful voice. Really creative. He's also an artist. He does hand paintings that are just amazing. Someday when I make it big, I'm going to buy one from him. Hendrix by Hendrix. Other than that, the only thing that I'm looking for in my future is I'm really looking forward to doing something on an all-instrumental basis, guitar-based, of course, and having that be the focal point, kind of like what Jeff Beck's been doing over the years as far as keeping the melody with guitar and not really pigeonholing into one type of music, kind of fusing a few different things together, but keeping it rock-based and very melodic and a lot of feel. I do well at that. I'm not a technician, so I'd like to do an album like that, that incorporates a little bit of techno, a little bit of reggae, a little bit of blues, a little bit of hard rock and fusion, and then I can die a happy guitar player. I'll have achieved all my goals, hopefully, and have everything in line. It's just a matter of if people will accept me in that capacity. I'm sure it'll be a different type of thing. It's not really a pop type vein like people are used to hearing me in with great singers like Phil and Lou Gramm and these people. But we'll see what happens. See what the future brings.
Since we did this interview with Donnie, D Drive has released their newest CD. It's called 3D. It comes with a pair of 3D glasses, so you can see the 3D artwork on the cover and included poster. Here's a few samples from 3D. The first is called Next Train. The next song is track 6, Last to Fall. Last, but not least, is Welcome to My World. Wow, that's some nasty guitar.
Can't find no easy way out. Somehow I need to. I know the fear they're talking about. Laid it out on the line, and you don't care how it will sound. Maybe it all just fades away, and you just keep hearing them say, you don't want me, you don't need me, you don't love me, you just bleed me. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, goodbye. Welcome to my world.
Don. We thank you very much for being with us today. We learned a lot, and really appreciate you sharing.
Yes, Donnie, thank you. We are looking forward to the future, to see where you go. No doubt, it will be a rockin' experience. Donnie, thank you again. You are a good friend.
Thank you for having me on here. It was a blast. I had a really good time answering the questions and reminiscing about my history in rock, and also spending some time with a good friend and a supporter of music. What you do is commendable. I'd just like to thank you from the bottom of my heart and for every musician out there that you have helped.